Excelsior! Welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Amazing Spider-Man 2. This is from 2014. It's 2 hours and 22 minutes, and of course it's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, this time portrayed by Andrew Garfield for the second time, the second film in a never-finished trilogy. I say that only because, they were setting up a lot of stuff in this film by the end. And I'm going to warn you right now. I'm going to talk about this film openly. And if you have not seen the film and you don't want to be spoiled by it, you should probably just stop watching now. I normally don't tell people to stop watching my videos, but I'm going to talk about it now because there's too much to discuss about this. It's not, I can't say it's controversial. I just say there's a lot of people have very strong feelings about it, friends of mine included, who, they feel really strongly about it. And it's understandable. There's some big things happen. Actually, a lot of things, almost way too many things happen in this film. Watching it, I realized, man, I kind of wish I could have got a Spider-Man live-action, high-quality, like, series. But it's on Sony, and there's no streaming service, and I mean, there's a series in a sense that, there's movie and movie and movie, but there's so much character stuff going on, like just Peter Parker stuff, Gwen Stacy stuff. It just, suddenly we get Harry Osborn thrown into the mix, and Green Goblin literally dying early in the film, not Green Goblin, but Norman Osborn dying early in the film, looking kind of green, but he never became the Goblin in this reality. His son did. I'm already starting with the spoilers. So, and of course in the comics, Harry also took up the mantle of the Green Goblin for a time, repeatedly, until he died repeatedly. So, it's the way it works. And speaking of death, this is the movie where that happens. In fact, they almost do he isn't holding his fist up in the shot, but there is a shot from above of him over her body, pretty much like this. The big question for fans, by the way, got this signed by the man who got to kill, who killed Gwen Stacy in 2009. So it's a hardcover too. It's kind of nice. Before I forget, to me, this kind of blew my mind watching this film. In the moment where her death takes place, before you all click away and go, this guy's annoying. Hey, I am what I am. There's a neat little Easter egg in this that I never saw before. Not that I've seen this movie tons and tons of times. I've seen it multiple times, but it was, probably 10 years ago. This movie's 10 years old. Tom Holland's had more movies in which he's appeared as Spider-Man than Andrew Garfield has at this point, which is really strange. Not really, but after Gwen dies, in a clock tower, not off the George Washington Bridge. Some people say it's Brooklyn Bridge, but I think it's a George Washington Bridge technically in the comics. Whatever. In the clock tower in which she falls, I'm sure there's some references to time and everything else with the gears of a clock falling all around her as she plummets to her death. They go outside the clock. There's a shot outside the clock, and the clock shows 1:22 a.m. She died in issue 122. So it's kind of a big deal. It was. To me, I was just like, wait. As I started texting my friends, did you know this? Did you know this? That they showed this? And I started sending pictures. To me, that's a nice attention to detail, Mark Webb, or whoever had decided to do that. But more than likely, the director Mark Webb had done this, and he. This is a guy I think did a really great job with this film. And I realized that a lot of people are just like, "Oh my gosh, I hate this film." Blah blah blah. Okay, whatever. In this, I think Spider-Man is depicted well. Peter, I have to admit, has always shown way too much confidence, especially with the ladies, or lady in this sense, with Gwen, even when he is on the outs with her. I think Peter and Gwen had a incredibly much more stable and amicable relationship than Tobey Maguire, Peter, and MJ, Kirsten Dunst. They were awful together. As I know a lot of you love the original big box office motion picture 2002 Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I get it. It's kind of started an entire it's a seminal moment for so many kids and adults to see Spider-Man on the big screen like that. And he's great in his own way, but the relationship with him and MJ, when I rewatch the trilogy, it is so toxic. They're just not mature adults in any way, shape, or form. They're awful with each other. It almost seems like they're vindictive more than they're loving to each other. It's just, to me, it does not work. In this, Peter and Gwen, it helps the fact that the actors, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, were actually dating at the time. I think they were still dating while they were filming this. Pretty sure. They have a great chemistry. And while they have not ended up with each other in real life, they have broken up since. They have a great chemistry in this. And they play off each other. They tease each other. They can let their guard down around each other. And yes, Gwen knows Peter's secret identity from the last film. But it's just, to me, it's a much more robust relationship. Unfortunately, she has to die. When people knew that this film was coming, that okay, Gwen's in this, Gwen didn't die in the first one, you're not going to introduce the character and kill her off immediately, but there's a sequel. And again, this is probably meant to be a trilogy at one point, because, and this was very much going to be the Empire Strikes Back of this this Spider-Man trilogy, because Peter loses a lot in the form of Gwen, very much so. And we kind of get a little bit of resolution in that in the Spider-Man No Way Home film, where all the Spider-Men get together. But and you know that he went to a kind of a dark place and everything else, and it was a struggle, even though the film ends with this little piece of hope right here, him showing a kid that he's still out there, that he can still protect. He still wants to protect people and give people hope. And that is, the spirit of these films, the spirit of this character. But a lot of people dislike this film because it goes from, hey, Gwen just died. 5 minutes later, Peter's kind of sad. And then he gets out there and goes out kicking butt against the Rhino, Paul Giamatti playing the Rhino. Okay. I realized that, yeah, maybe he wouldn't recover so quickly. But again, in that sequence of time, 5-6 months have passed. And it's not that... And he's out of the people like Aunt May show him that she has experienced loss as well. Someone she loved passionately. And she is able to move on. As much as you don't move on, she was able to move on. In this, Peter is shown to move on in his final moments, and a friend of mine has a really bad problem with that happening so quickly. But again, we weren't going to sit and have him mope for another hour or two to really drive home that he was feeling sad. No, we already had our third act. She was going to die. I mean, honestly, there was a point where, for me as a fan who already knew that where this story was heading, when Gwen is consciously choosing herself to put herself in danger in order to save lives, and they made her death not inconsequential. Not just like, hey, I thought I tossed her off a bridge and, oh, Spider-Man catches her with a web and she snaps her neck. No, it wasn't that. Like in the comic, it was her putting herself into a place of danger where she saved thousands of lives after Electro takes down the power grid and she has to bring the power grid back up while Spider-Man distracts him and takes the beating. She's able to save against the ticking clock, able to save the city, the air traffic controllers at the plane's landing, and New York has a lot of problems. If you want to make New Yorkers passionate about and feel really strongly about a sequence, airplanes landing. So yeah, it adds to the tension, the the fact that if she had failed, people would have lost their lives by the thousands. We do not want any more plane crashes. So Gwen was very much the hero. She was her own agent, had her own agency. She is not just the damsel in distress as she was in the comics, or as MJ was in just about every sequence in the Sam Raimi films. Nothing against Sam Raimi or Toby or Kirsten. It's just that was how hero stories were told in the time. And since the MCU has built up itself, these stories have matured to not just invoke classic comic book elements, but film elements and just standard drama elements, and comedy as well. It's. I think the films don't have to speak to a specific smaller niche audience. It doesn't have to speak to just fans. It doesn't have to speak to just children or just middle-aged white dudes who like comics. It literally can have a broader appeal, and the woman does not have to be, oh, save me, Spider-Man. It doesn't have to happen that way. So yeah, Emma Stone was able to get that, and that's kind of great. Unfortunately, we got a lot going on, and well, I say unfortunately, but it could have been more fortunate. Honestly, let's just say this got re-edited, and maybe all the scenes they might have shot and really padded this out into a 6-hour extravaganza. It could have been 6 1-hour films, 1 hour or 3 2-hour films, just this film itself, because there's so much going on with Harry and then dealing with loss of his father and reconnecting with Pete because of that. There's Pete coming to terms with the loss of his parents way back when, Peter and Mary Parker. And we get to see the story. It's kind of an origin story of them. They're scientists. In the comics, they were supposedly also spies with the government and everything else. But in this, they are people who work for Oscorp. And this is where they incorporate a lot of the Ultimate Spider-Man, the original Ultimate Spider-Man, not the new series that's just come out, but the older Ultimate Spider-Man series that showed kind of an origin story with with the Parkers, Richard and Mary Parker, and why they disappeared and why they went away, and how they were pretty much instrumental in the creation of the radioactive spider that bit Peter. It's very similar. If you read that story, if you want to go read that story, it's available out there. Go to your local comic shop now. Well, no, next chance you get. Free comic book day is coming up in May, so first Saturday in May. You can do that. You might be able to get those issues, those trade paperbacks, really cheap because there's a new Ultimate Spider-Man book. Anyway, we get a sort of a backstory, a richer understanding of who his parents were and why Spider-Man is unique, why he became Spider-Man and nobody else. This origin story does make it so that nobody else can be Spider-Man the same way. You'll understand. Well, I can spoil it because I've been spoiling everything else. It's locked into their DNA, and the human DNA that was put into the venom of the spider, and the spiders, when Richard was doing his experiments, was the Parker DNA, and it would have only worked if the spider had bitten Peter or anybody with his bloodline. Had the spider bitten Gwen while on the school trip, or some other buddy of his, well, they would have died or gotten really gross, like Harry does later in the film while putting on a glider, and did not dress like a Power Ranger. It's a military flight suit that was referenced earlier in the film, and then suddenly was just conveniently right there for him to hop onto, and was really easy to fly in the last 20 minutes of the film. Yeah, that's to me, a lot of my problems with it is so much of it gets rushed into that third act, and I would have loved to have spent more time with these characters, getting a little deeper and spreading it out. I know some people were like, I wish I could have gotten my 2 hours and 22 minutes back, but it all comes down to your expectations, and I really like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. He has a physicality for it. Again, other than his sort of bullyish-ness in the first film, he's kind of broody. I mean, Spider-Man's broody, not like an X-Man, but still, he's kind of broody most of the time. So, but he just seemed a little bit rougher around the edges than Tobey. But again, that's their take on it in this film, and that's okay. It's just wasn't, for me, it wasn't the wide-eyed Peter that I'm used to. The one who's always getting his butt kicked, and Spider-Man being the one who has all the confidence and kicking the butt. Yeah. So Peter seemed, in some cases for me, to be the dark side of Spider-Man, if that makes sense. Because he's the one who's dealing with the problems, the real-life problems that can get us down. Spider-Man is more cut loose in dealing with the problems than get yourself killed. Fighting an electric man. Fighting a goblin guy, fighting a rhino mech suit guy, these kind of things. So yeah, we got Jamie Foxx as Electro, and he plays a wonderful nerd, and then turns into a very intense dude. His motivations are actually pretty consistent, pretty decent, because he wants to be needed. He's lonely, and when he gets a little bit of attention from Spider-Man at one point on the street, he makes Spider-Man his whole life. And this is sort of about people's connections, especially fathers and sons, and especially with Peter and Richard, and Harry and Norman, and all these different things. Speaking of fathers, we get Gwen's father played. Why can't I say his name? Come on, say his name. Say his name. Oh, come on. I know it. Anyway, he makes cameo appearances, silent as a vision that Peter sees every once in a while, when he knows that he's putting Gwen's life in danger. And that's kind of the emotional struggle we get with Peter and Gwen, in that Peter wants to be with her so badly, but he made a promise to her father when he died that he would keep Gwen out of this. And that's the struggle of this film. And he pays the price. Gwen pays the price, I should say. And Peter has failed her father in not keeping that promise. It's kind of consistent with the comic, because Captain Stacy knew Dennis Leary. Dennis Leary is his name. Captain Stacy knew who Peter was at the time he died, a few issues before Gwen. More than a few, but a number of issues before Gwen died. So, yeah, it was always technically going to happen, but that, for me, that there was always that issue that what if they decided not to kill Gwen? What if? But again, going back to the whole thing, this had to be their Empire Strikes Back of this trilogy that never happened, because they were setting up a number of characters, villains, and sort of shared heroes, in a sense. There's a certain assistant at Oscorp named, it's played by Felicity Jones. Felicia. Felicity threw me off. I wanted to call her Felicia, but Felicity. But Felicia, if you know who Felicia is, that's the black cat, played by Felicity Jones. She does not put on a cat outfit. She does not break into anything. She is not doing anything acrobatic or anything else. She never got that chance. But odds are she would have shown up side by side with Peter as a potential new love interest in the third film that never happened. And of course, there's a sequence what I could have swore was part of a mid-credit sequence, but I think was rolled into the main one. I could be completely wrong. But there's a sequence at the end at Ravencroft where a man walks in trying to organize. He has a number of different things we see on the wall after talking to Harry. That there's some octopus arms on the wall. There's some vulture wings, and there's also a rhino suit. And that's where we get the rhino in the final battle sequence that ends suddenly, but Spider-Man wins. So it's that scene is more about Spider-Man's return to the world after many months of just being away, crushed by the death of Gwen. And so if anybody didn't understand that, I don't know how anybody could have misunderstood that. I realize that it's not like, hey, oh man, my girlfriend died. I think I'm gonna I'll get out there as Spider-Man like 5 minutes later. Yay, nothing happened. No, it's not how it worked. So, and I'm now doing over 20 minutes of this, and I'm sorry, but yeah, I think this is a pretty great cast. The action sequences were really done well. The music it had a somewhat, it's not John Williams, I know, but it had at moments it had those high horns. It kind of felt a little Superman theme-ish at times, but then they mixed it in with this electronic music, which makes sense with Electro as the villain. And if anybody who's like, oh, he shouldn't have been blue, imagine if he had been a guy in a green suit with yellow lightning bolts sticking out of his mask. Yeah, you would have gone, no. Jamie Foxx is not wearing that costume. He may not have liked to be looking like a nerd when he was human, but they corrected that in the Spider-Man No Way Home film. I could probably talk about this for a long time and even longer with friends of mine who have very strong feelings about this film. It is not the best Spider-Man film by any means. Everybody pretty much agrees on that. But I think it suffers from just putting too much into a relatively short period of time. And this is just, for a while, I wish maybe that, now I kind of wish that after they had finished the Toby stuff, they had done a prestige level television series that looked cinematic, but you don't take a major character like Spider-Man after hitting so big with it in 2002 and beyond, and then sort of dying out in the Spider-Man 3, but you don't take a big name character that you got for a song from Marvel in back in the days, Sony. You don't just say, oh, we're going to put them on TV now, because TV never has the prestige of film. It's just the way it is. Even though we've had this renaissance of film in the past 10, 15 years, especially with cable TV and things like that, and now streaming and everything else, a lot of stuff has gone straight to streaming. It doesn't mean it's any less quality. It just means they're monetizing it differently. So I realize this is whatever that sentence was, that was about 4,000 words too long. And I'm sorry. But I say, to me, I think this is worthwhile giving a chance. If you need to take a break every hour or every half hour, maybe this might flow a little bit better for you. I'm always entertained. Again, I'm going to go over the things again. I'm entertained by Andrew and Emma's chemistry. They do have I swear, go back and watch Toby and Kirsten. It's awful. It's truly awful chemistry. It's not that they're bad actors at all. It's just the interactions that they're giving each other. The ultimatums and all this other stuff. It's just awful. And then look at Gwen. And I know they're really too cutesy at times, that you feel that they just ad-lib their entire interactions, which is entirely possible, because they're both really good actors. Emma just won an Oscar. And Andrew is a solid, fantastic actor as well. The man deserves a few awards of his own. I'm just saying that I enjoy the Peter stuff and Peter and Gwen stuff. I love the action sequences when Spider-Man first meets up with Electro in Times Square. Yes, they do a lot of this slow motion pan around to check out the danger zone, basically. And that's, I tried to understand why they were doing that other than just to look cool. It's sort of getting an awareness of how Spider-Man sees the danger around him. And that it's not just danger to him, but danger to everybody around him. People about to be electrocuted, and how he just takes everything in, he takes care of everything. And it's with a really suave, kind of smooth move kind of stuff. Him landing on the stairs, I've been on those stairs, it's kind of cool. It's to be able to say, oh, Spider-Man stood there. Yeah. So it's a very New York place. It's a very New York spot in order to have a big battle like that, where all the electricity in the world is pretty much pumping away in Times Square. What's the worst place for Electro to be, or to fight Electro, I should say. It's great for the place for Electro to be. It's a bad place for Spider-Man to be fighting Electro. So yeah, I can't complain about the action sequences. And while, Andrew is he looks great physically as Spider-Man. He's got that lean and lanky kind of look to him. And I realize that a lot of this battle sequences, or all the battle sequences, are mostly all CGI, and it's not a human being. It's a video game cutscene. I realize that, but he's got the look. He's got the Spider-Man look, and it works. Only problem, like I said, is pacing. I wanted more time with these characters over maybe multiple episodes, and that is how this could have been made better. I think all the ingredients are there. Great actors, great action, and effects, and everything else. Humor, but a lot of people just crap on it because it doesn't live up to everything else they had. It was a Spider-Man. They were all still complaining, I want more Toby. Yeah, I get it. But we also got Tom. And we got Tom, Toby, and Andrew all together. And that, to me, I've seen that movie so many times. I really love it. So let's pick tomorrow's episode after all of that. 53. 53. Scroll. Oh, wow. Man, I'm getting a bunch of movies in a row. This is getting exhausting. These things aren't short. I need a short. Okay, we're going to be watching not the classic, but the 2015 version of Cinderella. Yeah. Tying into the Maleficent? No, that wouldn't be Maleficent. That's Aurora. Sorry, Disney people. Cinderella. We just had the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella just a few days ago. But here we are. We're getting the 2015 live action Cinderella movie on the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.